This is otherwise state champ Alex Thompson. This is Josh Elwer from the University of Northern Iowa, and you're listening to Potentially Dangerous on IA Wrestle.
Hey, is this heaven?
No, it's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show. Welcome to a special Potentially Dangerous Rankings podcast. It's the postseason. Eric Schares, Lars Underbakke, your host, Tony Hager. This is the final set of rankings. We are embarking on Wells Fargo Arena once again. And guys, I think literally one of the best senior classes that we have ever had, and for a while. If you can argue that there's been great wrestlers up and down the lineup, but as a full dual team of where we could put some of these guys in, I think this is one of the best senior classes we have had of all time. Schares at 1A, what are your thoughts on some of these guys from the senior class that you've seen? You've been able to rank some of these guys from when they were freshmen to seniors now.
Well, obviously, the cream of the crop in 1A would be Alex Thompson as far as the seniors go. You got Gable Fox, top-ranked senior, Donnie Schmidt, Chance Stars. You got a lot of seniors here, top-ranked. So, yeah, it's a pretty solid class, I would say, as far as senior class, even in 1A.
Lars, we started this website, group of us. Schares was along for obviously a part of this. It's kind of crazy to think about. Our first set of rankings were when these guys were freshmen. It's kind of setting in for me that we've been along. These guys have really been along this journey with us, and it's pretty cool to see these guys go out on top. And Class 2A, Michael Blockus obviously is the guy. I think he should get the Mr. Wrestler of the Year award in Class 2A by a landslide. But there's a lot of other guys though too here in this Class 2A and the seniors that should be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun to watch these guys grow. We've built some pretty awesome relationships with some of them through our events, through the rankings, the website, things like that. You've obviously, like you say, Michael Blockus seems to be the cream of the crop. He's got to be the odds-on favorite. But, you've got guys like Ez Moyle, who's a senior, defending state champion. You got the heavyweights. Heavyweights just loaded in 2A this year. You got Cooper Lawson, McConkey, Linderbaum, all those guys. Even kind of forgotten, but Colton Bartow and Boone McDermott over at Dubuque Wallard. Isaac Judge is tough. Up and down the line, Matt Robertson is a defending state champ. So, some really good kids in 2A as well. And I agree. I think this is the best class to come through Iowa probably since, LeClaire and Borschel and Morningstar and Slayton and, that whole crew. So, I'm excited for these guys to see what they can do at the next level too.
Well, let's get into it. All right, the final set of 2A, 1A rankings are out, and immediately I feel like Schares just does this just to get some firestorm going. I love it, but I think that with tournament rankings, I'm not a ranker, but at the end of the day, when you guys rank these guys, how you feel like they should be from 1 to, what do you guys rank, 10 to 1 through 10, and then at the end of the day, you guys do the data for placement points. So going into it, you have no idea what these tournament team rankings are going to be, but at the end of the day, you've got Lisbon ahead of Don Bosco. Don Bosco just beat Lisbon, and people are freaking out of why this is. How do we get to this point? Let's start at 106 pounds. Talk about, obviously a guy that's pretty big to Don Bosco's tournament, trying to bring home a tournament team title, is Daniel Kimball. Who are the must-watch guys here at 106 pound in Class 1A?
Oh, I would say any of your top 4 guys. You got, number 1, Jameis Wilson. He's the top returner from last year. him and Kimball had a match that came down to basically one exchange towards the end of the match down at State. And then right now you have number 2, Bo Kleinsmith from Woodbury Central. He only has 2 losses on the year, and they're both to Drake Ayala, so we know he's pretty tough. They're both pretty close matches, 9-6, 10-8, and he actually beat Kimball at the Herb Ergens tournament out in Battle Creek. So he's ranked number 2, maybe even potentially be number 1. I think he's right in there in the mix with these guys. And then number 4, you have Donovan Hansen from Manson Northwest Webster. I actually had him ranked a little lower throughout the year because on Track Wrestling they didn't have a result that he beat the number 7 ranked guy. So I bumped him up a little bit this last set. And he's, undefeated. He's a freshman looking real tough. So I'd say any of them 4 have a real good shot at winning the title.
Jameis Wilson, I feel like was a guy that I watched last year at the state tournament, Schares, and there was some disappointment there. I don't really remember. Who did he lose to?
Without looking at the bracket, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have lost to Allard. I don't know. Yeah, Seabrook. That was who it was. You're right.
He lost him on the semifinals or quarterfinals. It was early, I felt like.
Yep.
So, Jameis Wilson at 106. There was talk that he was actually transferring out of All-Burnett. So I think having him back there, I think that's the place for him with Clayton Rush. But, 106, I think the top 3 really is going to come down to that bracket of who's going to get put on the right side, who comes out of districts. For that bracket, 113 pounds. I don't know a lot about these guys. I know Adam Allard from West Sioux, but Cole Cassidy was a guy that I remember that you guys predicted to not have a high finish last year. Didn't have the tournament that he wanted. So he's up here at number 2. We're at 113 pounds. I mean, is there a heavy favorite here? Is another one of those weight classes here early that could be everybody's weight class?
No, I think this is pretty much Adam Allard's weight until he shows otherwise. Lost, I believe it was one time last year to an out-of-state kid. He avenged that loss this year. And this year he has one major decision, and the rest are all pins. So I was kind of talking yesterday about a guy we'll get to later out west who I think is pretty underrated. But I think even Allard, he's a state champ as a freshman, but I think he might be one of the most underrated kids in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I've watched Allard growing up as a kid. He was always, just super good. Kind of had an off year, through junior high. He kind of had some struggles here and there, but he picked it right back up last year. Had a great freshman year, and like you said, he's just dominant this year. I think he's a guy that, like you say, is a little undervalued, a little underappreciated, and I think he can make the jump up and wrestle a lot of these other guys and 2A and 3A and, really around the country.
Moving up to 128 pounds, Cale Happel, returning state champ, trying to, he's got that opportunity to be a 4-timer still intact. He's had some losses this year. He wrestled Aiden Reeves. I watched that match a couple times. I don't know if the nerves got to him or what. Obviously different classes here, but got Casey Baker. There's Blake Thompson in there. I know I've watched Meeker wrestle as well. Is he the favorite here at weight class, or do you think Baker or Thompson or Meeker could give him a shot?
No, I think Happel's a pretty heavy favorite here. I don't know if I didn't really see any crossover between Baker and Happel to get a good feel exactly how that match would go, but I think same with Happel. He showed last year he's the guy here until he shows otherwise. But Baker and Thompson are pretty close for 2-3. They had one match this year already, and 10-6 Thompson won. So, it'll be fun to see where those two match up with Happel.
Moving up to 26 pounds. What more is there to say? Alex Thompson going for his 4th-state title. Untested in Class 1A. I mean, is there the fight for second, obviously, but I feel like there's some guys here that we're fighting for, to get to that finals to wrestle, the opportunity to wrestle Alex Thompson, because I think a lot of people have gone away from this weight class. Seabrick from Lisbon, you got Larson from Don Bosco. This weight class could be a big factor in who brings home the tournament team title here.
Yeah, it could be. Same time, Larson and Seabrick have wrestled twice this year already, and Seabrick won both of them. One was 11-1, and the other one was a little closer. But Seabrick he just has such good defense. He's just so good on top with them tilts that if he just catches you one time, he can turn you 3-4 times and it's over. So, yeah, I think Thompson's no doubt number one here, but I think Seabrick's pretty well slated himself in that 2 spot.
Yeah, as far as that team race though goes, this is going to be a bracket that you're going to have to watch though to see if Seabrick and Larson are on the same side of the bracket though, right? Because Seabrick obviously has beaten Larson multiple times. If Thompson's on the same weight class or same side of the bracket, team point wise, this is really important to see where these guys will fall at 126 pounds. Thompson's the favorite here, but team wise, it's important to see for who's going to be in the finals, who could go to 3rd, 4th, 5th place here at 126 pounds.
Yeah, obviously the draw is always everything, but 4 and 5 are pretty tough here. All the way down, these guys are all pretty tough. So, yeah, that, like you said, the draw will play a huge factor in who's scoring points here out of Bosco and Lisbon.
I got to see Tegan Lundquist. This guy puts up some points, dude. he put at the John J. Harris, I think he put like 55 points up or 60 points up in one tournament. He wasn't really tested by anybody ranked, but he's another one of those guys from Southern Iowa that he gets the legs in, he can put some points on. I think he is a dark horse at this weight class. What have you seen Lundquist at all, or what's his results been here against some of these highly ranked wrestlers?
I haven't seen him wrestle because he's out in Western Iowa. He only has 2 losses though. He lost to the Ankeny kid and then he lost to the Atlantic kid. But other than that, he doesn't. He's got some decent wins, but he doesn't have a win where you're like, oh man, this guy's a title threat or anything. So yeah, he deserves that ranking, but we'll have to see if he's better than that.
132. So 132, you mentioned Donnie Schmidt there taking over the number 1 spot. Josh Tibbetts has had some injuries. I know for Martinsdale, St. Mary's. Is this like he's a clear-cut favorite at 132, or is this a guy that just really has taken a hold of this weight class here lately?
No, I wouldn't say Schmidt's the clear-cut favorite there. He actually just came down from 138. He was there for the first half of the year. Came down mid-January because he was going to be in a pretty tough district and sectional at 138. So I'd say you might even have your top. All these guys are good. I would even go all the way down to 8 maybe, where any of these guys can win on any weekend. You got all the way down at number 7, you got Max Wettengel. He beat Will Esmoil from West Liberty, who I believe Lars has number 1. So, yeah, you got Tibbetts in there, I've always had him ranked really high. He just can't seem to win that big match down at state. He beats a lot of good guys during the season, but then he'll drop one down there. James already beat Tibbetts, and Donnie Schmidt has a state title already. So, and then even look at 6, you got Sam Lloyd, who was he was a finalist 2 years ago.
What do you, Lars?
Yeah, I think this weight's loaded. It's just inconsistency. All these guys, like he said, down to 7 or 8 are capable of winning on any given day. But, as you said, I was there. I saw Wettengel beat Esmoil, and then turn around 2 days later, I was there at Benton Community when he got, I don't think he was even in the top 8, or he got 8th, and lost to some guys he shouldn't have. So, he's been inconsistent. Tibbetts is inconsistent. Schmidt's been up in weight. I don't know how hard the cut is for him. I really like Logan James. I think he's a big-time threat here. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And again, Moorfeld, Wettengel, they're in that mix of guys who are capable of winning. So again, this could be a big one for the team race too. Those guys could make the stand, not make the stand. They could be in the finals. You just kind of never know how this one's going to shake out.
Now, this is This is a good case here for the Class 1A guys saying that 2A is weak. I mean, we got number 7 ranked wrestler that has beaten the number 1 ranked wrestler in Class 2A, huh? Lars, I mean, what's up here?
Yeah, everybody can win on any given day. You know, Esmail was wrestling with a broken thumb and just didn't look great that night, but that was his last loss of the season so far. So,
all right. Well, we're through 132 pounds, 138 pounds. Everyone knows Gable Fox, Riley White, Bosco versus Denver. What are your thoughts here on this weight class, Eric?
Oh, I would say I think your top 2 have kind of separated themselves a little bit. I know there's definitely some threats to knock them off there, but I would still put those guys a step ahead. They've wrestled twice this year, and it's just a scramble for 6 minutes. Gable Fox won the first one 4-3 and the second one 7-3, but even that 7-3 was kind of caught right on his back and got a quick 2-3 count. So it's going to be a battle if these two meet up down at state, that's for sure.
145 pounds. I mean, Chance Thornton, last year I saw him at the state tournament. I was like, this dude is a state champ. Like, he's got a body, like 106-pounder, tall, lanky, from Riceville, a senior. You know, what do you think makes him so good at clear up 145 pounds? Literally, the guy does not look like 145 pounds when I've seen him.
Well, if I were you, I'd be careful talking crap about him because a little guy like you, he could wrap his arms around twice in that cradle and pin you, I think. So, yeah, he's good. You know, he's undefeated this year. He hasn't – their schedule is pretty weak, but the guy was state champ last year, so it wasn't like he had a weak road to at state. So, yeah, he's legit, but at the same time, I could see about 2 through 7 knocking him off if he has an off day. So, yeah, he's a weird matchup because he's so tall and he can cradle you from anywhere. But the guy's state champ.
Where's he headed? Has he committed anywhere yet?
I don't know. I'm not the guy for that.
Upper Iowa.
He's headed to Upper Iowa?
Upper Iowa, yep.
Heath Grimm. All right. So, committed wrestler, number 1 ranked wrestler there. 152, just had a podcast with Ross Barczyk about the Mr. Wrestler Award, and Trey Brisker got brought up, and people are upset that he's not. It's a whole nother podcast about this Mr. Wrestler Award. But this guy, obviously, one of the top wrestlers in Class 1A. Caleb Wilson's having a great year. I've seen Boswick wrestle. I saw him at the John Jay. What about this? I mean, I've seen Caleb Crail wrestle this year. What are your thoughts on 152 pounds?
Yeah, this is another weight where it's basically just a toss-up because you got all the way down to number 6 as your returning state champ from last year. So he actually lost 3 to 3 of the guys above him. He lost to Armet, Kilberg, and Wilson. I mean, this is another toss-up if you ask me. Brisker's, he's the guy right now. He's definitely deserved that number 1 ranking, but yeah, I expect all these guys right below him to challenge. All the way down to even number 8, you have a pretty tough freshman in Tristan Mulder.
160 pound. Go ahead, Lars. Sorry.
Shouldn't Skeeter Bostwick win just on name alone?
Yeah, he wins the name category for sure.
Skeeter Bostwick.
See, that's another thing that Hager didn't mention before. The best thing about this senior class is it's the first class that Hager was butchering names in. So
I'm still butchering them. If I wouldn't have been at that tournament, I would have probably called Bostwick Boostwick or something like that. So, I love it. Kilberg. I mean, I got that word. I got that last name. Moving up to 160 pounds, I think I want to say that we had this huge group text message that I feel like some people don't even want to be a part of it here at I Wrestle. But John Henrich, Akron Westfield, number 1 ranked wrestler at 160 pounds. I believe it was you that said that he's the most underrated wrestler that we have in the state right now. Why do you feel like that is?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just because I live over in the east, so I don't hear about the guys out west quite as much. But, you know, the guy won a state title as a sophomore at 160 pounds. And then, you know, all he is right here again is 160 pounds as a junior. He has 2 decisions, a major, and the rest are techs and pins, and he's just, I mean, just killing. He won a super stacked bracket last year at state, and he's number one far and away here at a pretty tough weight as well this year. So
didn't he grow up out of state? If I remember right, he placed in like South Dakota somewhere as a freshman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's South Dakota.
So I think that's a little bit of how he gets overlooked because a lot of people that are involved have watched all these kids come up through the ranks through AAU, USA, wrestle for Team Iowa, and just always kind of kept tabs of them. So Henrik comes in as a sophomore. People don't know him quite as well. So he kind of gets left behind a little bit that way. Again, I agree. Western Iowa doesn't get quite as much coverage sometimes, which is too bad. But I'm with you. As soon as Eric sent that text, I agreed. I think he's absolute dynamite. I think Brendan Swafford's a crazy good wrestler. And he really at this point doesn't even hardly have a case for number one. I think Henrik is the guy. I wouldn't be shocked to see Swafford in there and give him a great match, but John Hendricks, he's the real deal.
Well, I should give Swafford a little love because he wrestled Nelson Brands at the Independence tournament, and I wouldn't really say he gave him all he could handle because that'd be a little bit of a lie, but towards the end, he kind of came back against Brands a little bit, ended like 16-9, I think the score was, and I know Swafford got at least one takedown at the end, maybe another one, so, I mean, that's pretty good if you're doing that to Nelson Brands.
I feel like Nelson has some of those matches, though. You're right? I mean, the state wrestling tournament, he had some matches where, like, people were still in it, and this year, his emotions sometimes, I feel like, get to him, and he's either, like, just dominating the hell out of somebody, or he's, like, just getting... You expect him just to, like, put up tons of takedowns against somebody, and then you see somebody that, like... pushing him like Ramirez did at the duel a little bit, but it was Brands was in control the whole damn time, right? So I feel like Brands kind of can do that to a guy where he sometimes won't blow him out, but I don't know a whole lot about Swafford. I know the last name. Is this the family of the Swaffords?
Yeah, Lars has probably seen him wrestle more than I have being down that way, but yeah, the family's pretty tough. I've seen that name around for a long time.
Is it the Justin Swafford, that little crew, or
same family? Yep. He's got another brother at Graceland right now, or William Penn.
All right.
I can't remember which one, and there's been a bunch of Swaffords, and he's right in there. He's one of the tougher ones. He's good.
So moving at 170, Nathan Haynes. I saw him too, and this guy puts up points. We had the most dominant wrestlers, most dominant like takedowns, tech falls, pins. Nathan Haynes and his brother was right up there as two guys that are putting up points. Can Haynes take out Paulie, or what's his weight class look like here? I mean, Kale, got Kruger from Denver too, clear down at number 5. That's just a tough weight class.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I would say Haynes could definitely take out Paulie. I don't believe they have any common opponents other than they do have. I guess they have one. They both wrestled number 3, and Paulie only beat him 7-4, and Haynes beat him 12-4. So that transitive property doesn't always work like that. But if you're going just off that result alone, Haynes has the upper hand here actually.
Yeah, I'm really shocked to see Cale Kruger at 5. I don't look as close at some of these results, but watching Cale last year and stuff like that, I really thought he was gonna definitely be right in the mix for a state title this year. I still think he is, but just kind of interesting for me to see him at 5. I know all the names ahead of him. I watched Werdeman a few times this year. I've seen Haynes before. I know they're all tough, but just a little bit of surprise to me to see Kruger down at 5.
Yeah, he lost to Saracen, lost to Werdeman. Yeah, I guess that's his only losses. But yeah, he's yeah. I guess you lose to Werdeman, you got to kind of put him below. So, but other than that, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he's right in the mix with those guys either, though.
132 Schumacher, everyone knows that name. What are your thoughts on the 182 here?
Yeah, I think Schumacher's kind of another one of those guys where I've had him ranked highly a lot, and he's good. He's definitely good. He's definitely number one here, but Sims is pretty tough too. He hasn't shied away from competition. He's actually bumped up a couple times, wrestled some good kids. He wrestled Kubishek from Southwind, and then he bumped up to wrestle Sloan from Alburnett. He did lose that one 9-1, but you got him, and then you got Hunter Connor, who he's undefeated too, and then 4 through 10 it's kind of just a crapshoot. They all have some pretty good wins. They all have some good losses. So maybe your top 3 guys are kind of a step above the rest here.
Yeah, I've seen Connor and Sims this year. Like I say, Connor's undefeated. He's one of those kids. He doesn't necessarily like stand out to you at any point, but you get done watching him, and he's just really good on top. He's really good on the bottom. He's got a switch that I've seen him hit on just about everybody, even though they know it's coming. He just does a lot of little things right and gets those wins. And I know I talked to Eric a lot about Garrett Sims after watching him at Solon. We did the live video at Solon, and, he really impressed me. He, beat Hoyle from Solon pretty handily and had some nice wins. And, I know he was a kid that, we even talked about a little bit last year. So I know Sims is the real deal, and I think he's going to give Schumacher all he can handle.
Up to 195 pounds. This is, I think, a much have-to-watch match. Tanner Sloan, Hunter DeJong. I mean, I'm hoping that these guys get on the opposite side of brackets. Hunter's a guy that I compare him to Joel Shapiro a lot. I feel like he really came on in the summer, kind of like Shapiro did on the national scene. And, this could be his opportunity to take out a huge a guy that everyone knows is Tanner Sloan. 195 pounds. Is it the guys at the top here, or could Gabe Irons and Hagen and Geisler maybe have a shot at him?
Well, I actually had Hagen ranked number 1 all year long because he was a finalist last year, losing only to Cifuentes from Lake Mills, who's an absolute stud. So he was 1 all year long, but he got I don't have it here, but Irons. He lost to Irons twice in the last week. So I had Irons a little lower, so I bumped him up, and then Sloan's a state champ in there, and then like we talked about, DeYoung, he's exponentially improving. Now, is he at his ceiling now, or does he have a lot more to go? It'll be interesting, but actually probably the only reason I didn't have DeYoung 1 is just because Sloan was a champ 2 years ago, so he's undefeated, but that'll be another real, top even maybe 5-6 could contend here.
You got 8 seniors here at 185 pounds. Then you got my boy here. You got Blake, OG Den. I think he's the only Ogden-ranked wrestler. N1 Class 1A right here.
Yep, that's the only one, and you can't even pronounce his last name.
How?
Is that what it is? I have no idea. You got me on this one.
Oh, so you don't even know it.
I have no idea.
Schares knows that I go to the first name always if I can't pronounce
your
the
move.
last name.
That's your move.
That's my move, but pretty sure it's Hal. I don't. My dad calls me. He don't pronounce it probably right either. So I'm gonna go with Hal from Ogden, a sophomore. Yeah, these upper weights. When you see these lower classmen in there, people from Ogden have been texting me and say, "Hey, is this Blake kid? Is this Blake kid the real deal?" And I haven't seen him, so I don't feel like I should be able to comment on him. But obviously he's got some big wins in order for you to rank him here at 195 pounds. Let's move up to 220. This is another weight class, and we talk about Tanner Sloan with Hunter, and then 220, Caleb Reeves, Tom Reef. Tom Reef is a guy at 220 that puts up a ton of points. I think he's got some of the I'm trying to remember here off the top of my head, but he's got some of the most tech falls out of anybody here in the state at 220 pounds. Can Reeves knock him off? Anybody else here at this weight class?
Well, if the question is, can Reeves knock off put anyone in there, the answer is yes, because that guy he's a lot of fun to watch. He is all over the place, just crazy moves. He'll catch you in anything. He's a Jaden Ironman of 1A wrestling, I would say, in Iowa. 1-2, or it's basically 1A, 1B there. Reeves has some huge wins this year. He pinned Baumler, who Lars has number 2. He pinned Chaz Clark, who's ranked 3, and then he beat Logan O'Connor as well, who's ranked down a little bit, but still pretty tough. So that's going to be a match to circle if that one does happen at state. Another guy to look out for is all the way down to number 5. You have Marcus Pano from Tripola. He's the kid who I think he placed 7th last year in Illinois State. Came over here. I didn't really have him ranked all that high to start because I didn't know how good he was. He lost to Santee, who's ranked 9, but he might even be a little underranked there. He's pretty tough. But then he beat Ballmer in OT, and he's also has a win over O'Connor. So there's another guy who is projecting up.
285, we just had Sadler. He committed to University of Iowa for football. Obviously here last couple today, I think, or Tuesday, I believe, is when he committed. And that's all. I'm always sad when I see some of these upper weights commit to football, but I totally get it. And I think it's also great when we see people in wrestling get some of these D1 scholarships, or maybe he's walking on. I'm not sure, but Sadler's walking away with the fan vote for the Mr. Wrestler of the Year award at 285. I know nothing about this weight class other than Sadler's a big favorite. Anybody else at this weight class can push him.
Okay, so let me start off by saying Sadler's a stud. 3rd at state last year, top return, beating absolutely everybody at this weight this year. I know heavyweight matches are a lot closer. 2-0 wins at basically a heavyweight tech fall. But keep your eye on the Dyke New Hartford sectional this Saturday. You have number 1, Brian Sadler, number 3, Chase Aarons, and then you have 2 other guys who could very easily be ranked, have beaten some of these guys. You got a kid from Hudson and a kid from Bosco. All 4 at the same sectional. All 4, I have them 11 and 12 basically in the rankings. And I would definitely pick Sadler to come out ahead, but he has, he's been pushed by some of these guys. He has a 2-0 win over the Bosco kid, or 2-0 win over the Bosco kid, and he's got a couple close matches with Farley, but Farley's not there. But just keep an eye on that one there to see how that one comes out.
Well, we'll be looking for that one. That's for. I didn't even put those two and two together. Obviously, that's going to be a sectional to watch here. Looking at these tournament rankings, obviously people are up in arms about Lisbon, Don Bosco, your tournament rankings. Again, these rankings are based off of placement finishes, based off rankings, right? But honestly, what are your overall thoughts on tournament duels? Do you think Don Bosco's got 8 ranked wrestlers, Lisbon's got 7th ranked wrestlers, Denver in there too's got a heck of a team. I think looking at the points, Missouri Valley also too has a lot of good guys up in the upper weights. Who comes out of here in the tournament team title at 1A?
Well, first off, I would say Denver, Missouri Valley, they definitely have an outside shot at coming away with the team title in tournament. I wouldn't bet on it. Denver took a huge hit, losing basically number 2 ranked 126 pounder when Steggy had a knee injury, and then I think they have a couple other guys banged up. Not to mention they're in a really tough sectional and district. And then Missouri Valley, they got some top end guys. I just don't know if they got the numbers. And to me, it's going to come down to Bosco and Lisbon. I think it'll be a pretty good, tournament between those two. But at the same time, when I was adding up the points here for these rankings, Lisbon actually had kind of a comfortable lead on Bosco. So I think tournament team is Lisbon's to lose. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if those other 3 teams win. As far as duels go, yeah, that one's, I think it's pretty much a toss up. Bosco's gonna be the 1 seed. They beat Lisbon once they got full strength. They lost to Denver early, but they weren't full strength, and now Denver's not full strength. But even put somebody in there like I-35, they got a scary lineup. They got guys that have 10-12 losses, but some of their wins are over some really good guys. And then even like Lake Mills is pretty tough, Missouri Valley, all those teams. So duel is going to be a lot of fun in 1A.
Anything else noteworthy that we maybe skipped over in these Class 1A? I mean, this is our final rankings here. Any tidbits that we should be looking for here in this sectional tournament?
No, I said that heavyweight at Dyke is going to be a lot of fun with 4 real studs at sectionals, but no, that we said it was going to take me 10 minutes to get through that, and it took me almost an hour, or whatever you want to call it. So I think I said everything I have.
All right, Lars, you're up, my man. And 2A, New Hampton. These guys got 7 ranked wrestlers in your latest rankings. West Liberty, you got some ties to West Liberty. They got 4. Dubuque Waller, real red hot with O'Connor up there. He's having a heck of a tournament. Ballard's also always in there. Let's break this down here. We'll get into the team race later, like we did with Class 1A. But 106 pounds. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know a lot of these 2A wrestlers here. This is not my cup of tea. Who should I watch at 106 pounds?
Well, Cadle's a defending runner-up. He lost in the finals last year to Kesterson. He's back at that weight. He's got kind of a family name as well. His brother was at Iowa for a while. His only loss this year is to Ayala. He's got a couple pretty good wins, but he doesn't have the toughest schedule in the world either. After Independence, they've kind of stayed south. But there are, 3 or 4 really, really good freshmen here that are going to challenge him. Matthew Lewis from Centerville, Keaton Zymet from DeWitt, and Aben from Osage are all, really capable of winning this. Aben's, to me, just a monster at 106. I saw this kid at 13 at the start of the year, and I didn't believe he'd make it down. He lost, I think, in the AAU finals last year to Rathje. So, he's right there in the mix as well. So I think this is going to be a fun weight. I think all 3 of those freshmen are going to give Cadle all he wants.
What are some of these guys? So he lost, you said Aben lost to Caleb Rathje?
Yeah.
How about this Zemet kid?
If I remember right, I think Zemet got 3rd last year, and Lewis has just been an absolute hammer for a long time. Lewis was probably the name. Lewis and Aben were the names I expected this year. I knew Zymet would be pretty good. I didn't know how great, but he's just been on a tear. He's, only got 1 loss out of state, and he's had some really big wins. He beat Park from Linmar. He's beaten Noonan. He's beat Houston, Earp. He's got quite a few big wins. Harbor from Norwalk.
Well, moving up at 113 pounds, everyone knows the last name Kesherson from Williamsburg. Talk about, I guess, the rest of these guys here at 113 pounds. You got some more. You got some freshmen here in the top 5.
Yeah, like I said, Kesterson's returning champ. Florida, I believe, got 4th last year. I think he lost in the 3rd, 4th place match to Esmo at 106. But then, Loonsman. I'll probably butcher his name. This Gino Bana from Centerville. And then, those are kind of the main freshmen. And then the interesting one here is Remington Hansen was ranked all year in 1A for Belmont Clemmy. Had some family stuff go on. He happened to move. He's now in the Clarion School District. Not a ton of 2A results. He just kind of only been wrestling there for a week or 2. He did lose to Wiederholt already this year or this last couple weeks. So he comes in at 10, but he's a really interesting one that I'm kind of keeping an eye on to see how he does down there as well.
Gino Bana. I love that name. I just think of the Chobani yogurt.
There you go.
But this is to see. There's always some freshmen, right, in these lower weight classes that kind of make a name for themselves, and whether or not they can perform or not on the big stage, I guess. You got a couple of these early weight classes. You got some freshmen here in the top 5, so I'm interested to see how they perform. Moving up to 120, everyone knows Aiden Reeves is kind of the guy that has had the spotlight on him, but Drake Doolittle, I feel like, has been there, right? He's been on the edge of being like a star from how we promote things, I guess you could say, but he hasn't won the big ones. Anderlick too, kind of there. He's the same kind of spot. What are your thoughts on, last year? Was it you that caught the flack that didn't pick Reeves to win his state title, or who didn't pick Reeves to win?
Actually, none of the three of us picked him to win it. I believe I had him in the finals losing, and I think the other two had him losing to Doolittle in the semis. So I kind of vowed that at that point I would never bet against Aiden Reeves in the state of Iowa again. And I'm sticking to that, especially after watching him, just tear Happel apart. He looked phenomenal in that match. He's 42-0 I have him at. He's just been dynamite this year. Like I say, Anderlick's really good. Doolittle's really good. Jack Thompson, everybody knows Max Thompson. This is his little brother. He's always been, good coming up. Didn't have the end to his freshman year he wanted, but he's got a win over Kesterson already this year. When Kesterson was up at 20, he's been wrestling well. And then Jack Gaukel out at Sergeant Bluff Luton is another freshman, ranked really high here. Again, a kid who always was really good through the AAU ranks, all of that. He's come through in this last few weeks. He's beat Weeks. He's beat Nida. Oh, no. Excuse me, Gaukel. I'm thinking wrong. He's beat Logue. He's beat Krager. He's beat Nida. A bunch of guys. No bad losses. He's just kind of been steadily climbing up through the ranks as the year went on.
Reeves has 239 takedowns. He's only been taken down once. Any idea who's taking him down? Who the person was that took him down?
I really don't know.
Isn't that insane? 239 takedowns prior to sectionals. He could end up with almost 300 takedowns if he gets after it. If that's like a goal of his, dude, that's insane.
He's another one of those kids that we've kind of gotten to know and watched throughout the years. And I remember when we had him as a 8th grader just starting his freshman year at the Night of Conflict, and he was just this skinny little freshman, not much to him. And if you watch him now, he's not only quick, he's physical, and he's just upped his level too. I feel like Aiden Reeves from last year to this year has just jumped a whole new level. I just can't see anybody knocking him off right now.
This is a total guess, but he beat Pritchard 11-3, and that's the only score that looks like maybe there was even a takedown. Obviously one of these guys he pinned could have fell on top of him once or something, but that would be my guess.
Here's a couple of sleepers, I think, in this weight class. I don't think they can't knock off Reeves, but I feel like as far as in your rankings of where they will finish, I think Carson Babcock from New Hampton is a sleeper. This guy has the accolades of AAU wrestling. Just been pretty inconsistent as a freshman. I think Jack Gaukel also from Sergeant Bluff Luton. He's a kid to look for as a freshman here. That Krager kid also, and he's a senior. But I think from what I know, I'm not no expert here, but I think that Gaukel and Babcock are the guys to watch out for if you have them in your bracket here at 120 pounds. What do you know, Lars, about these two kids?
Yeah, I talked about Gaukel a little bit. Both really good freshmen. Like I say, Babcock, I actually, would have thought maybe 6'13". He's just sprouted up. He's tall, kind of lanky, really talented kid. He's got a couple nice wins, but, he had a few losses I didn't expect this year too at times. But yeah, he'd be a scary matchup. He's not the kind of guy you want to draw early on. He's definitely capable of making the stand and scoring some big points for New Hampton.
126, Air Fought, Clear Lake, Shea Ruffridge. These are two names that I feel like we've kind of been accustomed to of seeing, getting big wins, having a great state tournament. Shea is just on that edge, and I feel like Eric has kind of, I wouldn't say lost his edge, but he's kind of been outshined by some other guys in this class. What are your thoughts on 126 pounds here with Fought and Ruffridge at the top?
I think Fought just kind of gets overlooked at times. Clear Lake used to be a really good program. They're not quite as good as they've been in the past. But he's undefeated. He does have a win over Ruffridge this year as well. That's Ruffridge's only loss. So Fout's wrestling well. He just kind of hides behind the radar behind some of these other kids, it seems like. Phil Eady's the kid from Decorah who's been super good all throughout high school. He's always had a really good record, but up in that corner of the state, he just always seems to have the worst draws every year. He always has 2 or 3 ranked kids with him at districts and just always had bad luck, but he's undefeated right now. He's had some really good wins this year. He's beat Yant a couple times, Dakota Henry, Cleveland. So I look for Edie to step up and have a big senior year. A couple sophomores, Schropp and Kozlarek, have been really good. Morgan Rowley's a senior who nobody really seems to know. Again, just kind of keeps climbing, just keeps finding ways to win. And, had a really good year. He's just coming off a win over Weeks. And, I think Rowley's an interesting prospect. Anamosa's not necessarily known for their team, but, I think he's one to keep an eye on as well.
132, Esmoil, Robertson. Robertson, obviously the returning state champ. This is, I think, Esmoil beating Robertson. Robertson's taken a couple losses here as of late. What are your thoughts on how does Matt Robinson come away here with another state title at 132 pounds?
Yeah, to me, top to bottom, this is the deepest weight in Class 2A. There's guys that aren't in the top 10 who I had a crazy hard time leaving off that are really good. Like say Robertson and Esmo have split this year. They've both kind of battled little injuries here and there, but Robertson was number 1 all year into this set. He did take a few losses, but 2 were to Eli Lloyd, 1 was to Esmoil, 1 was to Price. So it's not like he's lost to anybody bad, but Esmoil's been really hot lately, coming off of that win. He lost to Don Bosco to Wettengale earlier in the year, but since then he's just been on an absolute tear, beating Robertson, beating Phillips, Radke, Loonsman, and not just winning, but he's been pretty dominant as well. And then you got guys like Gable Speardout and Central Lion, Rubke, Fritz. These are all names everybody knows. These are names that have been around. I just don't think they've seen that level of competition yet this year. So it'll be really interesting to see where they all slot in. But Esmoil and Robertson have both been, really, really good this year. And the fun thing is they're in the same district, so we know they're going to be on opposite sides at state.
138, we talked about Blockus. He's the guy at 138 pounds, but I've seen Miller wrestle a couple of times. He's obviously he's number 2 in your rankings. Where do the rest of these guys from 2 to 5 lay here at 138?
Well, you got Easton Graff, the giant killer. He a couple weeks ago took out at the time number 1 in 3A Devil Dentist. All he did is follow that up the next week. He went out and beat number 1 in 1A Gable Fox. Beat Colton Roth out there as well. So Graff's been on just an absolute tear. He's only got 2 losses. One is out of state. The other one's to Zach Stewart. So Graff and Miller, I think, are really close. I kind of hope they're on the same side. I'd be interested to see that match up. But, yeah, it's just hard to put anybody in that category with Blockus right now. He's just so good. I agree with you. I think, at this point, he's the 2A wrestler of the year. It'd be hard not to give it to him. He's bumped all over for the team. He's going for competition. He beat Josh Saunders, who's just been a wonder kid all around the nation his whole career. Blockhouse went up to 45 and beat him at Independence. So, he's dominant. Really 5 through 13, 14 were all really hard to slot out. You could give an argument for all these guys. A guy like Kibbers got knocked out in this ranking from Winterset. He's right there in that mix as well. They're all kind of in that same boat to me. I'd say these top 3 or 4 guys are pretty clearly ahead of the rest of the pack.
145 pounds. You got Noah Fye from New Hampton. I feel like when Noah was freshman, sophomore, tons of hype around him, and sometimes a little bit of inconsistency from Fye. We've had some injuries that we've seen, and Tanner Abbas is a guy that he'll go and he'll push you. So I feel like 145 pounds. Ryan Steffen, too, I've seen him wrestle from Cresco. 145 pounds, there's no clear-cut favorite here. Swank, even, too. What are your thoughts at 145?
Yeah, I agree. I think all four of those are really fun. Roseboom recently cut down from 52 as well, so I'm interested to see him at this weight. He's had some nice wins, but yeah, Fi's really battling some injuries, which is going to come into play. It'll be really interesting. Super talented kid. At times, when he takes a loss, he just seems to kind of fall apart for a while. That's kind of been his MO at state. Every year you think he's going to be in that mix, he's going to be in the finals, and just doesn't quite work out for him. But Abbas, like I say, he's had a good year as well. All he's lost to is Blockus and Damon Lochner, and he's physical. He's a go-getter. He's not going to back down from anybody, so that'll be a fun one if they meet up. Yeah, Steffen's a 3-time place winner. Swank's really good. Those two are real close at 3 and 4. So, I think Fi's injury is definitely a big question, but I definitely think these top four are all capable of winning this bracket.
152 pounds has got to be one of the other deeper classes that you've got, or weight classes you have. Judge, Nosker, Kelly, Mangold, even Kyler Reek down there at number 5. Judge is the favorite right now, but some of these other guys are definitely capable of taking this title at 152, right?
Oh, absolutely. Joe Kelly was a state runner-up 2 years ago, got third last year with a win over Judge. He's taken a few losses over the last few weeks. He's kind of had some struggles. He did, lose to Mangold earlier in the year, came back and beat Mangold a couple weeks ago, beat Krieger a couple times here in the last couple weeks. So those guys are all in that same mix. Novsker is a guy who jumped up in weight, state runner-up last year, really talented kid. He did injury default out of the Ed Winger, so I'm hoping, he'll be back and healthy and ready to go. I think those, next 4 or 5 are all capable, but like I say, clearly Judge right now is the favorite. But yeah, I think, at least those top 5. Kyler Reek, I'm really interested to see again this year. He's really only lost to, I believe, Lara and out of state too. So those top 5 that's a really deep, weight class there of top end talent.
Yeah, I just kind of looked through here too, and to me, that's the deepest weight. You got 5 or 6 guys there where if you draw them first round at state, you're going to be like, oh my God, I got this guy right out of the gate. So to me, that's the deepest.
Yeah, 52 is crazy looking at that. 160 is really a weight class that I looked at this when your rankings came out. Is I feel like I don't really know what we have here at 160. Josh Ramirez hasn't wrestled a ton of weight classes, a ton of matches. We saw him against Brands. Can't really compare him to a lot of people because of how dominant he is. Shape is going to be a question for Josh, I think. Tate Patani is a dangerous wrestler, but I would say a little inconsistent. What are your thoughts here on 160? I just feel like this is kind of up in the air right now.
Oh, absolutely. Like I say, Ramirez is good. He's really slick, but Shape's definitely going to be a question after watching him. I was up in Dubuque last week to watch that first match with Brands, and, really talented kid, but we'll see. Luke Hogman, this guy, it was, grade school state champion, really good wrestler. I feel like he's been ranked number 1 or 2 his whole high school career. Believe it or not, has never qualified for the state tournament. Last year was number 1, had a win over Broderson during the year, lost to Broderson and Bartow at districts. Those guys went and got first and third. Just kind of always had that bad luck for Hageman. And what does he do this year? He's in the same district as number 1 Ramirez, number 2 Hageman, and number 5 Paul Ryan are all in that same district. So, it's going to be really tough. Whoever gets left out there is going to be, sitting at home watching. It's going to be really hard to see them not there. But, Wes Cummins has been good, but, maybe taking some losses that I didn't think he would. Like I said, Tate Patani's dangerous, but, I just don't know if he's consistent enough to put it together for a full weekend or not. So it'll be interesting. I definitely wouldn't put any bets on this weight.
170 off. We were talking in text message. You mentioned Roland at 170 from PCM Monroe being in there. Bartow, Glasser's heading to UNI. I don't know a whole lot about this weight class. Let us know where this kind of lies for us.
Yeah, again, it'll be, I don't think there's one completely dominant wrestler. I think those top four are all going to be right in that mix. Westfall Edwards is a really talented kid. I believe he's only got one loss this year. Has beat Batani when he was up in weight. Has some other good wins, but hasn't been, a crazy tough schedule either. Bartow has taken a couple losses. Lost, I believe, 9-0 to Wempen last weekend, which I'm not surprised he lost to Wempen, but the margin really surprised me. Roland's only loss this year was a really close match with Thad Breitsbecker from Southeast Polk. He's got some really good wins as well. Roland has bumped up and beat the state runner-up Ben Lee. He's beat Sprague. He's beat Leo from Ankeny a couple times. So, Roland just kind of got that bump. I feel like he's been hot lately. Maybe Bartow's taken a step back, but I think Glazer, even Westfall Edwards, are all definitely capable of competing and winning it this way.
182, Julian Broderson. This is a guy that's really come on late. I'm excited to really see for his future. He's only a junior though, kind of telling his story right now. I like Ben Lee from Ballard at number 3. Broderson, the odds-on favorite here, or can some of these other guys push him?
Absolutely, other guys can push him. We talked about other guys being one of the most underrated kids in the state. I think Kyler Fisher from Southeast Valley definitely fits that mold as one of the most underranked kids in the state as well. He kind of came out of the woods last year. People weren't real familiar with him as a sophomore. Was a state runner-up. He comes out this year. He is undefeated. I believe he's 48-0. Last weekend, bumped up to 195 and beat the defending runner-up Cody Fisher to give Fisher his only loss. He's another one of those kids. Kyler Fisher's been chasing competition, been wrestling extremely well. I don't know. I think him and Broderson it's going to be a fun match. I think Fisher's absolutely capable of winning this weight as well. Ben Lee's been a little inconsistent. Had a great year last year, got second. Bentley was a real good wrestler last year. I believe he got 4th. He's been battling an injury, but if he's healthy, he's going to be in the mix as well. A lot of good kids. Hoyle's going to be there. Troush is good. So I think it's an interesting way. I think those top 3 are definitely, the favorites. I think don't sleep on Kyler Fisher. I think this kid's the real deal, and he's going to give Broderson everything he wants.
I feel like at 95, Cody Fisher was the guy that people were talking about last year at the state tournament, right? A freshman, Woodard Granger. Now he's got Bryce Esmoil from West Liberty, a senior at his weight class, number 1 ranked wrestler. These two guys, these two guys the heavy favorites at 195, or can Foss or Smith kind of sneak in there?
I would say those two are probably, pretty clear favorites. Foss and Smith each only have 1 loss. Some pretty decent wins, but yeah, Fisher, like I say, his only loss was last week to Kyler Fisher. He's been on a tear this year, been wrestling really well. Esmoil really just hasn't been touched. Everywhere he goes, we had that stat today as well about how many forfeits he's taken. He's had a lot of people dodge him. Guys bump up weights. I've seen him chase guys up a weight just to get that competition. He wrestled number 5 Goebel, 2 weeks ago, and just absolutely dominated. So I don't know. I'd like to I think Fisher's going to give him a good match, but you also look back to last year, and Esmoil beat Fisher 15-0 in the state finals. So, I got to think he's closed that gap, but can he make up 15 points? I don't know.
Esmoil sounds like kind of a bully, chasing after these guys to beat him up.
I don't know about beat him up, but good kids that have bumped up in dual meets and, tried to give him the forfeit. It's hard, that good of a kid, you want to get him matches. He wants to get matches, so sometimes, he's bumped up to 220 with him just to make sure he could get a good match in.
220, Boone McDermott. No one hotter right now. That name is, if you didn't know that name prior to this week, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. That's a name that really kind of beaten Dugan, really kind of cemented his print on the state tournament of a guy that you have to watch. Thoughts on the other guys here at 220 pounds?
Yeah, absolutely. Baumler's capable. We saw him win it last year. He's taken a couple losses within the last few weeks. So, he slotted down to 2. But, Tyler Anderson, the kid who's wrestled really well this year. Arion Day from New Hampton is another one of those guys. I believe they said he started wrestling in junior high. You've always kind of seen that athleticism, but inconsistency. He's had a really solid year. I think he's going to be a handful for somebody at state as well. But Boone McDermott is just on an absolute tear this year. His only loss is to Kirkfleet, a junior national champion from Minnesota. He's just dominated in state. Like I say, he's beat Duggan 6-0 and pinned him last weekend as well. And, he was a guy who was kind of off a lot of radars at the next level. I've had at least 3 Division I coaches call me within the last week asking me about Boone McDermott. So he's jumping I believe he was number 11 in Flo's rankings today. He's jumping in the national rankings, the national spotlight, and it's well-deserved. Great kid, great wrestler, and, I'll be really surprised if anybody knocks off McDermott at the state tournament.
285, I got to imagine this was a tough weight class for you to rank. Cooper Lawson, big name. John McConkey, even a bigger name on the national side of things. Where is this weight class shake out for you at 285?
This one's going to be tough. To me, this might be the best matchup. I know a lot of guys don't like watching heavyweights at times, but Lawson versus McConkey, I think, would just be so much fun. Cooper Lawson's a kid that I've thought the world of for 3-4 years. Last year he was number 1 all year, got hurt, wasn't able to wrestle at state tournament. McConkey's the guy who came in, was able to reach the state finals, signed with UNI. He had a good summer. I've kind of had McConkey number 1 all year. Lawson with them, it's kind of been back and forth on who to put where, but Lawson's just been dominant as of lately. I don't think, I'm trying to remember, somebody told me I think he's given up 1 point this year. Here's a stat for you. The last time Cooper Lawson was taken down was by Carter Isley in the state finals his sophomore year. So, Lawson's just so good, so hard to beat. But then you look at the next group, Linderbaum, going to play football at Iowa, really athletic, big kid. Etherington's got a win over Trinary. Spencer Trinary was a nationally ranked kid coming into this year, and he's number 5 right now in 2A. And the crazy thing is, it's Lawson, Etherington, and Trinary are all in the same district as well. Ooh. And Etherington has a win over Trinary this year. And, I know Clarion's trying to battle for a team trophy, but if Spencer Trinary doesn't get through, that's just a crazy hit for them.
Holy cow. Fargo national champ, too, right? Cadet?
Yeah.
At number 5. Holy cow.
Qualify for state.
Wow. All right, so New Hampton, obviously, as we started this Class 2A here, 7th-ranked wrestlers, West Liberty with 4, Dubuque Wahlert with 4. Does disaster have to happen for New Hampton? They've got a weak sectional. Their districts look great, too. What are your thoughts here on Class 2A tournament-wise?
I think New Hampton's definitely the favorite because of depth. And again, their district isn't great. I fully expect New Hampton to put double-digit kids into the state tournament. I'm thinking anywhere from 10 to 12. I wouldn't be completely shocked to see them put 14 through sectionals. I think they're capable of that. So that's going to be just tough to beat. I think a lot depends on Noah Fi's health. If Noah Fi is ready to go and is a state finalist, they're going to be, really hard to beat. If he's not healthy and doesn't make the stand, that opens up the door for a lot of teams. But they're going to put a handful of guys or better on the stand, which is going to make them tough. Right behind them is, West Liberty and Wahlert, who don't have as many guys ranked, but they just have the hammers. They've got 3 or 4 guys capable of winning state titles on each of those teams. If Will Esmo's number 1, Bryce Esmo's number 1, Joe Kelly's number 3, and has been in the state finals before, so if all 3 of those guys come through for West Liberty, I expect them to get, probably another 3, 4, 5 guys through besides them. That's always been the difference for them. They've been competitive last few years, haven't brought the guys with. if they can get 6, 7, 8 guys through, I think they're going to compete with New Hampton. And then Waller, Ramirez, you got McDermott, you got Bartow, and then, their heavyweights ranked, their 95-pounders been in the mix all year. So, again, these teams just need to bring some more guys with them. It's hard to win a state title with, 4 guys, but if they can bring in 6 or 7, I think they have a chance to compete. And Ballard's a team that returns some state finalists, but, some of those guys have taken losses this year. Ben Lee hasn't been quite as consistent. Nofsker, has been a little hit and miss and is battling an injury. So it'll be interesting. I think a lot of it will depend on numbers. I expect New Hampton to just bring so many guys that's going to make them tough to beat, but that top end on those other teams is going to be really good and make it fun.
Dual team wise, New Hampton and Claire, big favorite too, or?
Yeah, dual team. I'd be really surprised to see New Hampton go down. They have, again, that depth. Plus, I think they have enough depth they can manipulate their lineup a little better than some other people can. Clarion will be in the mix. I think West Delaware is a team to watch out for. They don't necessarily have a ton of ranked kids, but they are really good up and down. Honestly, I think West Delaware within the next year or two is going to be competing for that traditional title as well. They're just still kind of young. I would say that those teams are a little bit up, but, you got West Liberty, Williamsburg, Solon. There's some teams that aren't ranked quite as high that I think can compete. But I think there's going to be some really good regional duels on this end of the state that are going to play a huge factor into who gets there and can try to make a run at those top 3 schools.
Is there any truth to the rumor that they're going to give the 2A state dual championship trophy to the team that finishes second in 1A?
Ouch.
I don't think there's any truth to that.
Okay, I didn't know. I mean, because, 1A's whooped up on them in duels. I was just wondering, but never mind.
Yeah, that was pretty clear at Battle of Waterloo, right?
Yep.
Well, I want to end here on some things that didn't. I kind of had this on my notes and I kind of forgot to bring it up. But for Eric, 106 pounds. Donovan Hansen from Manson, he goes from unranked to number 4. What were the big wins that he had? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, I know, but Donovan Hansen is a name that we didn't know here. What can we expect from him here?
Actually, like I said on that one, I had him right at like 11 or 12 for a while. He didn't really have any big wins. He's a freshman, so I was a little hesitant to put him in. And I kept checking his track profile, no huge wins. All of a sudden, this last set I checked, boom, middle of the season, he has a win over Atkinson, like in the middle of the season. It just was not in there in the results. So obviously I had no clue what happened. So that was why he moved all the way up. That kind of scares the heck out of me. Like I said, sometimes some of these results just, they're not in there for weeks and then all of a sudden, bang, there they are. And, if it happens out in western Iowa, it's some, place out in the country, you have no idea that it happened unless someone tells you, if it's not on track wrestling. So that was the reason on that one.
And Lars, for you, Kesterson from 5 to 1. What were the big wins that catapulted him? That's a big move here late in the season.
It was mostly a weight drop. He had been wrestling 20 all year. He had been trying to make 13, was kind of struggling for a little while. So I had him number 1 at 13. I finally kind of gave up on that, and since he hadn't been there yet, I moved him up to 20. He had taken some losses at 120 to a guy like Zeb Nida. I'm trying to remember who else. So that's why at 20 he was a little bit lower, but once he made 13, I talked to him once he was down at 13, and he said he was feeling good. He was kind of settling in, so I think it was more of the weight jump than it was necessarily big wins. He's always been tough, but I just think at 13 he's that much better.
All right, guys. Well, you guys said we were going to only talk for like a half hour, but we're over an hour, which I knew we would be. And, this is the last set of rankings, our full set of, from start to finish, these freshmen to seniors. Any last words Lars, I'll let you go first as far as what to look for. What are the storylines here in Class 2A?
I think the team race is going to be a fun one. Is New Hampton's depth going to hold everybody off, or can some of those other teams compete? Like I said, I think some freshmen in the lower weights will be fun to watch. And then a couple of those weights, 32, 52, there's going to be some really good battles in there as well. And just enjoy the ride. Like I said, this class is pretty special. I think this junior class is pretty good behind them as well. So I just think there's going to be some great battles, and I'm just excited to get to Des Moines and watch them all.
Schares?
I think I pretty much covered all the storylines, but I did want to get in, if anyone ever has a problem with me not ranking a kid or they don't think it's right where the kid's at, DM our main account, tweet at me. There's ways to get a hold of us, email us, because I love the feedback, and I love discussing with people where I think they should be, but just know if you come at me and you don't have the greatest case, I'll let you know about it too. So, but I love the feedback and the back and forth with the fans.
Hey, if they weren't reaching out to you, they wouldn't care, right? So,
yep.
Class 1A has been, man, I remember back in the IA Preps days, or IowaPreps.com, there's a forum on there, and the 1A forum was just insane. People were just hating on people that were ranking. So if there's anything I know, the 1A wrestlers, the 1A teams, it's proven year on year out when you watch the dual teams state championships that the 1A teams come out in droves, way more fans than 3A teams, which is really kind of unfortunate. But with that, you get more people that have opinions. But that's why we love our great sport here in the state of Iowa. Lars, Schares, we appreciate you guys coming on and doing these rankings one more year. And we expect that your rankings are going to be on point. From 1 to 10, or 1 to 8, you're gonna have them all on point. And obviously that's not going to happen. But we hope that you're going to have a good percentage of those guys that are in the top 8. Some of them aren't going to get through districts based off of other kids being in there. But we'll be watching. I know I'll be watching, obviously, and we hope you are too. Any last words at all, guys?
Nope.
We'll see y'all in Des Moines. Should be another fun tournament.
All right, our state hub's going to be coming up here. Obviously, we've got sectionals here this weekend, but we'll be at Fort Dodge taking on number 1 Valley in Class 3A here on Thursday. We're hopefully going to be bringing you some regional duels on IA Wrestle, trying to partner up with Iowa High School Athletic Association to bring those duels to you for free on trackwrestling.com. Likely probably won't be streaming any district tournaments, but as always, we'll be on the floor at the state wrestling tournament. If you've got any storylines that we need to be on top of, send us a direct message on Twitter at IAWrestle, or you can shoot us an email at iawrestlecontact.com. Love to hear it. Hopefully we can cover it, and hopefully we'll have the access that IA Wrestle has been known to have here this coming year. So for everybody at IA Wrestle, again, we appreciate you checking out our rankings, the banter back and forth. As always, thank you again from Tony Hager and everybody else. Thanks for listening.
Get low when the whistle goes.